Hello, CraftyAndy here, and well, these are not my thoughts. I came across this NMC magazine, volume 30. It's a series of postcards. Some of it's like abstract art, design, poems. Now, NMC, they're still around. They have an active Facebook group. I know, Facebook, right? But they also have a website, Northwestern Michigan College. The theme on this was secrets. And one way or another, people reveal some secret that they hold. But it's just an opportunity for literary students to showcase their design and artwork and writing. I just happened across one that stuck out to me, and I figured I'd share with everybody, lest it be lost in time forever. And as you can see, it's, or you can't see because of the light. Nope, there you go. There you go. As you can see by the font, it's quite small. So yeah, let's get into it.
Skip it up and that up.
Secrets. Every day that I take the time to check the profile I have listed on one of my many social networking sites online, I wonder what I'm looking for. I have a list of friends that are not friends to me. Actually, only a few know something about me that is worth knowing. Looking at all the profiles of these friends is so depressing that some days I think maybe that's what I'm looking for. Do I search for the people who are in high school with me to make myself feel worse? Am I just looking in hopes that the information on someone's profile will make me feel better about myself? Maybe I'm just nosy. Most people will check these sites or put profiles up to keep in touch with people they care about, but not me. I put my profile up and set it to private, so I have a login to search for people I don't care about. I changed the settings so that people cannot search and find me. I've got an account under an email I don't use anymore. My name is not listed, it's just blank. My picture is not of me. It's a political cartoon I found somewhere else online. I search for the people I used to know, the ones I say I don't care about, and look at their pictures to see what they have accomplished since high school. I check them occasionally to keep tabs in my own mind about their lives and note how I measure up to them. I feel like I'm stalking the people I check up on. That's why I don't dare show my name or face. I put my feet up on the shelf next to the desk and compare my life to the lives on the screen. Most of the people I graduated with are married, and they have at least one kid. Maybe 2 or 3. They have found the loves of their lives, and they are right where I want to be. Even the girls who were never popular and still to this day haven't seemed to blossom into the pretty girl they always dreamed of being are engaged and look happy. I am all I have. Just a computer and me to wallow in my misery. Relationships do not work out for me. I reject people I should hold on to, and cling to the ones who are the worst for my well-being. I stay only to find out that I've been wasting my time for 2 years on a person who doesn't really care. The last ex that I had is on my list of friends online. His name is Terrence. I don't talk to him anymore, but I check his profile and his pictures every once in a while because it took me longer than 2 years to figure out that he was bad news, and a year after that to get over him. Even after I left him, he would call and talk about things that were new with him, and he would say at the end, "I'll call you this weekend." And I would say, "Okay," even though I knew it wouldn't happen. So finally, after putting up with it for so long, I thought I didn't care if he said he would call and didn't. Would I ever be able to move on? No, I wouldn't. Not after what happened. Terrence was the cute new guy. I was single, he was intriguing. What attracted me to him was nothing important, but you can't compare attraction to relationship potential anyway. There was something in the way he walked and the way he talked. He was confident, and he had a great smile. The first day I saw him, I knew I wanted to know more. I asked one of my girlfriends if she knew who he was. To my surprise, she did. He was her boyfriend's roommate. He lived in our building right down the hall from me. As we got to know each other, I learned that he was older than I thought he was. I assumed he was no more than 5 or 6 years older than me, but in reality, the age difference was twice that. I told myself age was just a number. Yeah, so was 10 to 20. We started to get to know each other's habits, likes, and dislikes, and eventually talked about our families. Looking back, I feel so stupid for making up excuses for everything, because his age was the least of my worries. When I asked about the tattoo he had on his forearm, he said, "Oh, those are my kids' names." Normally one would think, "Oh, isn't that sweet?" But not when there are 4 names inked on a scroll that looks like a list that's only half unrolled. I confessed my worries about his children and about stepping into a family that was already started and broken. He assured me they would like me and I had nothing to worry about. I tried to believe him. Throughout most of our relationship, we both live in northern New York. He was from New York City and I was originally from Michigan. We met March 27th, 2005, and if you asked, he would be quick to say that I pursued him, not the other way around. Even though the shocking discovery of the age difference and the kids, all I could think about was being with him. I would like to say that our relationship lived in the honeymoon stage. I would love to say that I floated through the first 10 months without a care in the world. But actually, I must say the best thing he had going for him was his charisma. His ability to make himself sound wonderful, and of course his looks. He did have a stable, steady job. He had good manners, and he always let me decide on what to do for date nights. He was so romantic that he never bought gifts for occasions, never opened doors, or pulled out chairs. He never introduced me to his family, never held my hand when we walked. He even eventually denied his own child and lied right to my face when confronted with things I already knew to be true. We could fight about anything and everything. He would say I was overreacting or making me out to be the instigator, or both. He hid things from me, he lied about almost everything, and I stuck around. He told me he wanted to be with me forever, that he would never leave me, and I liked to believe it. I wanted to believe that the good times were only going to get better, and that the bad times would all but disappear with time. We talked about wanting to be married for the first time, and the second time around for him. We agreed that if either of us ever wanted to leave the other, that we wouldn't waste each other's time, that we could just end it. We talked about previous relationships and how time was wasted. We didn't want to do that to each other. We talked about wanting a child or two, but only after we got married. We talked about buying a home outside of New York City or moving somewhere warmer. We talked about taking care of each other, about our parents and families, about everything. The only thing I was worried about was the kids he already had, and how they would feel about me when I finally got to meet them. The things he didn't promise me should have been my signal, just as the age gap in children should have been. Our relationship was not built on truths or communication. It was built on selfish feelings and sexual chemistry. I, of course, did not see the red flag until it was way too late. I had to have been blind. My friends probably thought I was insane, but hindsight is always 20/20. People who truly cared for me told me that I should move on. They told me I didn't deserve what I was putting up with and claiming to love. They saw the problems, but people like me don't listen. People like me have to learn the hard way. Terrence and I hadn't even been together a year. It was Friday, February 18th, 2006, when he called me at work. He never called me at work. We worked the same hours and we both had busy jobs. We would see each other afterwards and nothing seemed so important it couldn't wait until 5:30. I answered with my usual professional spiel, not expecting his voice. I asked what was going on and he told me he was going home for the weekend, but he wanted to ask if I was feeling all right. What do you mean, am I feeling all right? I asked as my mind began to race through things that could be wrong with me. I was nervous and worried. Did he know something I didn't? He didn't waste any time getting to the point. Have you had your period? He asked. Great. Just great, I thought. We had been together for a while. We were exclusive. We both were clean and free of STDs, and I wasn't on birth control. We didn't use any type of protection. I trusted him to take care of me. We talked about no babies plenty of times, and he knew how they were made. No, I haven't, I said. Why? Well, I haven't felt like this in a long time, but I've been feeling weird lately. What do you mean you've been feeling weird? I interrupted. The last time I felt like this was when Natalia was pregnant. I feel kind of sick sometimes. Oh, well, that's real nice. I better not be. That's all I can say. A great combination of worry, fear, and anger was beginning to boil inside me. But I'll see you on Sunday. I'll call you later, he said. Fine, I said and hung up the phone. I heard enough. I knew he wouldn't call me later. Natalia is the mother of his 4th child and the 3rd woman he had gotten pregnant. He knew I wasn't on any kind of birth control. He knew I didn't want any kids until I was married. He was probably feeling sick because he knew what he had been doing. But this is what happens when you trust a liar. I thought I was in love with him. I thought a lot of things. What I didn't know was how often he let it slip. In the throes of passion, all I concentrated on was how I felt. I trusted him not to let go inside of me, and without any other protection, he was supposed to protect me. He knew how to control himself, and he knew I would be scared and upset if he did let anything go, because I would have to be hoping and praying until the next month came. I hadn't even given it a thought until that day. It had been almost a year and nothing happened. He had obviously changed his method from careful to careless. That night I went to Kmart because I knew the store would be practically empty. It never seemed to have more than 20 people there at any given time. Typical Kmart. I was ashamed of myself. It was dark and freezing cold as I hurried in, head down and hands in my jacket pockets. I looked through the shelves and grabbed a package of first response pregnancy tests. There were 3 tests in each box. The bright pink box told me that the results were over 99% accurate with an excited exclamation point at the end. It said these tests could detect the early form of the pregnancy hormone 5 days sooner. After choosing the cherry pink box, I wished the Kmart had the self-checkout counter so I didn't have to face anyone with my shameful merchandise. They don't. You have to cope with a judgmental clerk woman who suddenly feels like your mother and you want to be dressed in a Halloween costume so she can't see who you really are. So she won't care about the thing you're about to buy. The woman who took my money didn't say anything to me. I don't know if she thought anything about me or if she wondered about my age or sensed that I didn't want to be buying little plastic hormone-reading future-telling sticks to pee on. I imagine how different this shopping experience might have been if I had been married, if I had wanted to have a baby. How different it would have been if I were as happy as the little exclamation point. I hurried back out of the store the same way I came in and drove back home. Once I got there, I read the instructions inside the box. The instructions told me I could test any time of the day, and I didn't have to use the first pee of the morning. But generally, that is when the pregnancy hormones are at their highest. I decided that I would wait. I had a roommate, but she was gone when I got up, off to whatever it is that she planned for the day, which didn't include a test of any kind. The instructions also said that I could go in a cup. So with my frazzled mind, I thought that would be the more accurate way of doing things, rather than try to aim and miss. I sat on the edge of the tub as my hands shook. I'm sure I looked like I had a mild form of Parkinson's as I held the test in the cup, then took it out, recapped it, and laid it flat to wait for the results. The results would come after 5 seconds in the cup and 3 minutes of lying flat on the countertop. One little pink line began to form immediately, which means not pregnant. But you have to wait 3 minutes for the test. 3 minutes is a long time to sit alone in a bathroom shaking and sweating over pink lines, 2 of which formed by the end of the wait. 2 little pink lines stared me in the face. I didn't cry about it. I had already made up my mind before I even took the test. I didn't have time to cry now. I had to solve my problem. Terrence was not around. He was at home in the city. Hopefully he was still feeling sick to his stomach because I sure was. I didn't see him before he left Friday. He was literally on his way out of town when he called me at work. And I was right. He didn't call me later like he said he would. I had gone to Kmart alone, I worried alone, and I took the test and waited all alone. He didn't call me Sunday either. And he came back late that night. I could hear when he got home. He had bags to carry and the halls were quiet. I could hear his door open and close and waited a while. There was no phone call. I didn't hear him come back out. He wasn't going to come get me. So I went and knocked on his door. He answered and stood there like he wasn't going to let me in. I stood staring, wondering why not. "Why didn't you call me like you said you were going to?" I asked, still standing outside the door. He let out an "I can't believe this" sigh, and let his head fall back in annoyance. "How could you just leave me here like this and not even call me? You can't even do what you say you're going to do. You let me wait by the phone like I have nothing better to do." "Come in here," he said. "You're just going off like that in the hall? Why didn't I call you? How could I? Jeez, it's not that serious." "Oh, not that serious, huh? How would you know how serious things are? You tell me about going out of town seconds before you leave, then lie about calling me. Now you're going to make me out to be the one who's out of control? He let out another sigh as if to say, are you done complaining? I'm tired of hearing it. Well, I sure hope you had a good time. What took you so long to get back anyways, I said. Calm down, I rode back with a buddy of mine and he didn't want to leave. He had things to do, he said, lying through his teeth. I knew that he had left with another guy who lived in our building. The same people were in the car on the way back as when they left town, and Terrence was the reason they left late to come back. There were no valid reasons. There were no apologies for making me wait for a call that would never come. I went and sat down and said, well, I took the test. Yeah? He asked as he got something to eat and came back to sit next to me. It was positive. No response. I told you before I didn't want any kids until I was married. We talked about this before. You knew I wasn't on anything. I know, he said. Whatever you want to do is your choice. I didn't say anything. I was glad for his support, if that's what it actually was. That's what I took it as. But now I feel as if he was glad I didn't want kids. And he just didn't want to be the one to tell me what to do with my body. He didn't seem to be bothered by it at all. He was the type of person who avoided conflicts at any cost. And now I think he just didn't want me to blow up in his face if he had said he didn't want it. That wouldn't have been a problem though, because on Monday I started calling around in search for my solution. I found a hospital. It was 3 hours away, and they would give me the pills that would solve my problem if I was less than 8 weeks pregnant by the time I got an appointment and got over there. I read about the procedures online and called to get an appointment as soon as possible. There's no way that I would have been able to give a baby the life it deserved, especially with a reckless boyfriend who didn't even seem to care one way or the other. I took my money and myself to the hospital on March 2nd, parked in the garage and walked inside. The hospital looked nice. It seemed very professional, and I walked up to the desk to check in. Once at the desk, I had to stand and wait for the receptionist to call back to the office where my appointment was. I couldn't help but feel like the part of the hospital where I was headed was the only one that needed this special pre-check-in process. She hung up and took a map out of the desk drawer. She explained how to get to where I was going. She highlighted the hallways and circled the elevator banks. The little office ended up being so far away from the front of the hospital that it felt like a walk of shame. I felt worse than I had when I had to go to the checkout at Kmart just 13 days before. It felt like everyone was staring at me, as if everyone knew exactly where I was headed and what I was going to do. I tried to block the thoughts, but they got worse, and the hallways seemed to get smaller and longer. I passed elevators, nurses, patients, closed doors, open doors, and kept going and going down the winding halls until I finally reached my destination. Maybe all of this walking was so people like me could think about what we were doing and change our minds by the time we got to the office. And this office door was not nearly as fun as going to the dentist. You are not going to see a sign with a smiling tooth holding a toothbrush, and you aren't going to see pictures of happy children and dinosaurs that tell you to floss your chompers. The door was heavy, and when you had to push a buzzer and wait until they unlocked it and let you in. I went in and checked in for my appointment. I looked around at the other women and wondered if they were all there for the same thing, knowing they all took the long walk from the front I had just endured. I was called and checked. They discovered that according to their machines, I was only 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant. They explained everything to me, asked if I was sure about my decision, made me sign some papers, and gave me 2 small white pills. I swallowed them and that was the end. Or maybe it was just the beginning. I paid my $500, made the mandatory follow-up appointment, and left. I walked the long, winding halls back to the front of the hospital and out to my car. I spent the rest of the night feeling sad and guilty. I was alone, and wishing I wasn't, at a hotel near the hospital. I didn't talk to Terrence. I wrote to myself in a journal and tried to watch TV. I flipped through the channels, finding nothing interesting, and finally gave up after catching a glimpse of a baby story on TLC. I turned off the TV and just wanted to sleep. Through my grief in finding a hospital to take care of my problem, I didn't realize that the pills were going to take 24 hours to start working, and cursed myself for spending the money on a hotel room when I could have just went right back home. The follow-up appointment came 11 days later and I returned to the hospital. Only this time there was a man outside picketing with a sign that said, "They kill babies at this hospital." and I had to hold myself together. If this had been my first appointment, I might have skipped the long halls. I might have canceled my appointment, at least for the day. I believe things happen for a reason though, and I saved my tears for later. I made the long walk to the office again after waiting for the receptionist to call and get the okay. Everything had gone as planned. I was not pregnant anymore, and for the last time, I walked the long, winding halls back out again. I had time to cry now, and I had done plenty of it since the initial appointment. I had solved my problem, no thanks to anyone else. I cried through the cramps, through more than 20 days of bleeding, through the loneliness, and throughout the guilt. When I go to the doctor, I can no longer write a 0 in the space where it says number of pregnancies. I will never have my first child. Only one other person knows my truth, and he cannot know my pain. He can't know because he has children. He has another newborn to yet another woman. The new woman took my number on his list. She is where my baby and I would have been. I know because I've seen the pictures and read the profiles. She's having his 6th child. She probably thinks they will get married and live happily ever after, just as I did. I'm sure her pregnancy wasn't planned because she is younger than I am. She's even younger than I was back then. But he has no plans to marry her. He said so himself on his profile.
Secrets, huh? Here's the secret of my life. Is it real? Will it be if you take time to read such a small font size? Well, I did take the time to read the small font. It was crazy. It put a lot of strain on me, and I think I'm gonna go blind in about a week. Thanks.
Like, subscribe, share, give me ideas for topics and or art in the comments, or email me, CraftyAndy Patreon for high-res art, files, and sketchbook, and early episodes. Also CraftyAndy under the Art Pal store for prints and art gallery. Streams on twitch.tv/CraftyAndy live. Check for scheduling, gaming, art making, and live commentary. This channel's mainly focused on entertainment and art, but if you want some real weirdness, go to the Weird Zors channel. Check that out. Like, subscribe, share. As I said, good day.